Welcome back, everybody. Bruchim habaim. As we return to the places and spaces that we have carved out for the Yamim Norim, these days of awe, we begin our Kol Nidre service tonight with the prayer, Hashivenu. We return to the prayer that we began with on Slichot. Hashivenu is a prayer about returning to who we really are, to the landscape of our souls. And in our tradition, Yom Kippur is an opportunity to dig deep one more time, to root out any intentions we created that veered us away from ourselves. We seek to return home. In this particular version of the prayer, we do something a little subtle but meaningful in recognition of the interconnectedness of all of our souls. You will hear us alternate between the words Hashiveni ve'ashuva, which speaks to the singular voice, and Hashivenu ve'nashuva, which speaks to the plural voice. We pray tonight for return to ourselves and to reconnect and return to each other. We begin on page 127. Hashiveni ve'ashuva, Hashiveni ve'ashuva, Hadesh, 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 Yameinu kekedem, Hadesh, Hadesh, Yameinu kekedem, Hashivenu ve'nashuva, Hashivenu ve'nashuva, Hadesh, 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 Yameinu kekedem, Hadesh, Hadesh, Yameinu kekedem, Hashiveni ve'ashuva, Hashiveni ve'ashuva, Hadesh, 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 Yameinu kekedem, Hadesh, Hadesh, Yameinu kekedem, Hadesh, Hadesh, Yameinu kekedem, Hadesh, Hadesh.
Good Yontif and Erev Tov. Thank you so much, Cantor Belinda and Meg Gister, for starting us off with our Yom Kippur night of returning, our Kol Nidre evening of looking at the vows, the promises, all of the ways in which we have tried over the past year to take actions that were well-intentioned, but we may have missed our mark. We are all here tonight, all of us, the CBSRZ extended family, our mishpacha, to enter into this day of atonement and to say to one another, to ourselves, and to God, we will do better in this coming year. As this is a traditional day of fasting, I offer you a blessing for a meaningful fast. We often wish each other at Tzom Kol, an easy fast, but I don't think it's meant to be easy. I think it's meant to be meaningful. And of course, if for any medical reason this is not a smart idea for you to be fasting or a wise choice, I do hope that you would choose not to be fasting. If you require medication or if you are pregnant, if you need to be drinking water for any reason, please, please do so. This is not supposed to be a dangerous choice in any way. I hope, no matter what, that our Yom Kippur observance over the next 24 hours is spiritual, is moving, and is meaningful for you all. And also, based on feedback that we received after Rosh Hashanah, an announcement that we will keep our Zoom room open for 5 additional minutes following our service tonight, so that you'll have a chance to wish each other a Gemar Chatima Tova, the traditional greeting as well as blessing to each other, which means may you all complete a good sealing in the book of life, a S-E-A-L, a good signature, a good sealing in the book of life, so you can chat for just a few extra minutes before our room closes tonight. And I'll remind you as well, please to stay muted in our Zoom experience tonight, and turn your video off if for any reason that seems like the right choice, depending on what you're doing at home. A reading that seems quite appropriate given our present setting and circumstances. Said the Holy One to Israel, I asked you to pray in the synagogue of your city, but if you cannot pray in the synagogue, pray outdoors in an open field. And if you cannot pray in the field, pray in the shelter of your home. And if you cannot pray in your home, pray in the dark on your bed. And if you cannot pray on your bed, meditate in your heart without words. We turn now to page 9 in our Machzorim, our Yom Kippur Machzorim, and it is such an honor to invite Rebecca and Andrew Mozingo and David Bixon to light our festival candles for us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Yom HaKippurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'ehyanu v'kiyemanu v'hihyanu lazman hazeh.
Yasher Koach. Thank you so much to Rebecca and Andy and David. Rebecca is our incredible chair of our RITC committee, which stands for our Ritual and Celebration Committee, and has been so instrumental in so many of what made this year's High Holiday experience very special, including the very wonderful High Holiday totes that so many of you got to take home. So thank you all. And now we will turn to page 15, and all who are able, I invite you now to please rise as we prepare for Seder Kol Nidre, the part of our service surrounding Kol Nidre. Kol Nidre, a chant that begins in a whisper and rises to a cry. On this night of promises remembered, each soul in solitude communes with the soul of the universe. God, from this day of atonement to the next, may we reach it in peace. All Israel makes these vows, to turn from wrong, dishonesty, and greed, to walk in the path of justice and right. Yet we know our weakness, how prone we are to fail. Help us to keep our word. Help us to act with humility and integrity. We seek pardon and forgiveness. We seek your radiance and light. We will now turn to page 18 for the traditional 3 repetitions of Kol Nidre. You'll hear it played once by our wonderful Meg Gister on piano, then sung once alone by Cantor Belinda, and then sung once by our entire adult choir. Please also note the beautiful photos of members of our CBSRZ community holding the Torahs throughout our first rendition. Now please remember, we will be standing for a long time, and if you do need to be seated, you are welcome to do so.
The speech being so loud that Canada called the cops, the actual content was also ridiculous. Donald Trump believes in me? The dude also believes in Kim Jong-un and hydroxychloroquine. I want to be in that group. Yesterday was night 2 of the Republican National Convention, the biggest week for Trump campaign staffers who aren't currently in prison. And the night got off to a rocky start when one speaker was pulled at the last minute for tweeting out an anti-Semitic QAnon conspiracy theory. And I, for one, am really glad. Because I don't know about you, but when I sit down to watch the Republican National Convention, I don't want to hear anything crazy. But I'm worried that this does set a dangerous precedent. Because now there's a 95% chance that Trump also gets the boot come Thursday. That wasn't a tweet. I just retweeted it, guys. What's wrong with you? But after that rocky starts, who better to smooth things over than Vice President of the United States and elevator music in human form, Mr. Mike Pence. Pence appeared in the video that was too boring for me to remember what happened, except that he was standing outside Abraham Lincoln's boyhood cabin, and he also took the bold step of appearing alone with a woman who was not mother, or as he calls it, doggy style. Then later on there was a segment making the case that Trump is also a feminist hero because he's hired a bunch of women. And although some people might argue, you have to admit, Trump is an ally to women. Just look at the facts. He appointed a young up-and-coming woman to a high-level position despite having 0 experience. He gave women like Kellyanne Conway and Sarah Sanders the opportunity to lie to the American people, a job traditionally reserved for men. And he alone stood by Ghislaine Maxwell when no one else would. If that doesn't make him a feminist, then maybe I don't know what the word means. But the main event of the evening was the speech from First Lady and woman who just betrayed James Bond, Melania Trump. She showed once again why she is the most popular Trump.
I want to acknowledge the fact that since March,
Why
have
don't we
changed
pause? Pause for a
drastically.
second.
The
Why don't we
invisible
pause for just a
enemy,
moment?
COVID-19,
Just a minute, everybody. We
swept
understand that
across our beautiful
there's
country
something
and
interfering with our
impacted
sound,
all of
and we want to
us.
make sure that this is a
My
spiritual moment
deepest
for everyone, so
sympathy
just
goes
a moment,
out to
please.
everyone who has lost a loved one. And my prayers you watch how mean and manipulative social media can be. We all
I think. Yep. Okay.
Okay. Trevor, Noah, it could have been worse. Let that be the worst technical difficulty that we have. We're going to start
Again.
our video over and our first rendition of Kol Nidre. Once again, are we ready to go? Yeah? Okay. Let's start again. Thank you, everybody.
Kol Nidre ve'esarei v'chanamei ve'konamei ve'chinuhiei ve'kinusei u'shevuot din darna uldeish tebana udiacharimna vedasana nafshatana miyom kippurim zeh ad yom kippurim haba aleinu Tova kulhon lecharana vehon kulhon yehon shiran Shevikin shevitin beteilin umvutalin Lashevirin vila Yamin Nidrana La Nidre Vetesarana la esare Ushevuatana la shevuot
Page 20. All shall be forgiven, the entire community of Israel and the stranger who lives in their midst, for all have gone astray in error. Moses prayed to God, as you have been faithful to this people ever since Egypt, please forgive their failings now, in keeping with your boundless love.
ויאמר אדוני, סלחתי כדבריך. ויאמר אדוני, סלחתי כדבריך. ויאמר אדוני, סלחתי כדבריך.
And God responded, I forgive, as you have asked. We remain standing as we turn now to the next page, to page 22 for the Baruchu.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Page 27. Please read with me. We pause in reverence before the gift of self. The vessel shatters, the divine spark shines through, and our solitary self becomes a link in Israel's golden chain. For what we are by sharing, and as we share, we move toward the light. We pause in reverence before the mystery of a presence, the near and far reality of God. Not union, but communion is our aim. And we approach the mystery with deeds. Words lead us to the edge of action, but it is deeds that bring us closer to the God of light. We pause in terror before the human deed, the cloud of annihilation, the concentrations for death, the cruelly casual way of each to each. But in the stillness of this hour, we find our way from darkness into light. May we find our life so precious that we cannot but share it with the other, that light may shine brighter than 1,000 suns, with the presence among us of the God of light.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kivud Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
You may be seated. Page 30.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אמת.
We turn now to page 39, and it is such an honor to invite Shelley Sprague and Stephen Baraz to read our next piece.
Our sages taught it is proper to mention the exodus from Egypt in our morning prayers and also at night.
We celebrate the going out from Egypt in the morning light, full of confidence and vigor as we enter the new day.
But in the evening, weary from the day's exertions, cast down and fearful at the coming of the night, what can the exodus teach us then?
Our nighttime prayer needs hope and trust in the future, as God did not abandon us long ago through the long, dark night of exile. So the Holy One will be with us in time to come, to stand by the one you love. That is the true essence of faithfulness, the meaning of emunah.
So it is written in the Psalms, to proclaim your kindness in the morning and your faithfulness in the night. Sing with joy in the mornings of your life, when light surrounds you and the world seems beautiful and good, and in the evenings of your life, when you dwell in sorrow and the world seems dark, do not despair.
We turn now to page 42.
Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamideinu malkeinu l'chaim. Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamideinu malkeinu l'chaim. Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamideinu malkeinu l'chaim. V'hamideinu malkeinu l'chaim. Ushmor tzitzeinu Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamideinu l'chaim. Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamideinu l'chaim. Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamideinu malkeinu l'chaim. Hamideinu malkeinu l'chaim.
Page 45. Ki vayom hazeh yichaper alechem letaher etchem mikol chatotechem lifnei Adonai titharu. For on this day atonement shall be made for you, to purify you from all your wrongs, and pure you shall be in the presence of Adonai. Please rise.
Yitkadav Yikadash Merabah
Amen.
V'yamati rachirute v'yamlich malchute b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayedecho Beit Yisrael ba'agala ובזמן קריב יאמרו אמן. יש מרב המבורך לעולם ימי המיה יתברך וישתבח ויתבער ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קדושה בריחו לעילא ולעילא מכל ברכתה ושירתה טוב שפיכתה ונחמתה, דם איראן וימה, דם איראן וימה, ואימרו אמן. Adonai, Adonai, Sifatai tiftach, Ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevii Geula livnei bneihem, Lema'an Shemo v'Yahava. Zachreinu l'chaim, melech hafetz b'chaim, v'chotvenu b'sefer ha'chaim, lemancha Elohim Chaim, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei Hakol Atah Rav Le'Yoshia, Morir Atah. Mechakeh Chaim Chesed, Mechayeh Hakol V'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofech Cholim, U'Matir Asurim, U'Mekayem Emunato L'Shenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, U'Midom Elach, Melech Memitu Mechayeh, U'Matzmiach Yeshua, Michamocha El Harachamim, Zocher Yetzuram, L'chaim V'Rachamim, V'ne'emanata L'chayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה.
We now continue silently through page 81. You may continue with the words on the page or the words of your own hearts and souls. Thank you to our choir for such a beautiful rendition, and to Meg for helping to pull it all together, and to Pat, of course, for all of his video wizardry. Absolutely incredible. Now we turn together to page 82 for the start of our Vidui section of our service. Page 82, and you are all invited to please rise.
Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Tavo lefanecha, tefilateinu, Titalam mitchinateinu she'el anachnu azefanim ukeshei orem lomai lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu tzadikim anachnu velo chatanu aval anachnu chatanu avinu pashanu.
Please be seated. Part of our vidui, our confession, is this community admission of an acrostic of sins, the Ashamnu prayer, which goes through the entire Hebrew alphabet. And all of these sins are in the plural, which is always a bit of an enigma. Why would we all be confessing to sins that we haven't all committed? And it's an interesting answer. It is because we are all responsible for each other in the collective. We have to all look out for our community, and we are all responsible for taking care of each other and for helping to ensure the safety and the well-being of each and every one of us, and for educating each other at all times. And so it is, of course, traditional to place our hands, our fists over our hearts as we list these sins. And though some people say that this is a form of self-flagellation, that's not really meaningful to me. Instead, I see this as a way of kind of knocking and waking up our hearts and saying, hey, be more a part of my life this year. Wake up your heart and say, my heart is going to lead me even more in the coming year. Ashamnu.
Ay, 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 Ashamnu,
Ashamanu,
Bagadnu,
Bagadnu,
Gazalnu,
Gazalnu,
Dibanu Dofi,
Dibarnu Dofi,
Evinu,
Evinu,
Vehir Shanu,
Beir Shanu,
Zadnu,
Zadnu,
Hamasnu,
Hamasnu,
Tafanu Sheker,
Tafanu Sheker,
Ay, 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 Yatsnura,
Yatsnura,
Kizavnu,
Kizavnu,
Latsnu,
Latsnu,
Maradnu,
Maradnu,
Niyatsnu,
Niyatnu,
Saranu,
Saranu,
Avinu,
Avinu,
Hashanu,
Hashanu,
Saranu,
Saranu,
Kishinu Oreb,
Kishinu Oreb,
Ay, 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 Rashanu,
Rashanu,
Shichatnu,
Shichatnu,
Tiavnu,
Tiyavnu,
Tainu,
Tainu,
Titanu,
Titanu,
ay, 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 ay.
Please join me in the translation of the English. Of these wrongs we are guilty. We betray, we steal, we scorn, we act perversely. We are cruel, we scheme, we are violent, we slander. We devise evil, we lie, we ridicule, we disobey. We abuse, we defy, we corrupt, we commit crimes. We are hostile, we are stubborn, we are immoral, we kill. We spoil, we go astray, we lead others astray. Page 86. Vidui Rabbah, the long confession, will be alternating the Hebrew, which Cantor Belinda will chant for us, and then we will all join together in the English. For these sins, our God, we ask forgiveness.
אחרי שחטאנו לפניך בזדון ובשגגה, ואחרי שחטאנו לפניך בדיבור פה.
The ways we have wronged you deliberately and by mistake, and harm we have caused in your world through the words of our mouths.
אחרי שחטאנו לפניך באימוץ הלב, ואחרי שחטאנו לפניך בטיפשות פה.
The ways we have wronged you by hardening our hearts, and harm we have caused in your world through careless speech.
אחרי שחטאנו לפניך בכחש ובכזב, ואחרי שחטאנו לפניך ברכילות.
The ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor.
אחרי שחטאנו לפניך בפלילות, ואחרי שחטאנו לפניך בזיזוח הורים ומורים.
The ways we have wronged you by judging others unfairly, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers.
אחרי שחטאנו לפניך בווידוי פה, ואחרי שחטאנו לפניך בכונעת רע.
The ways we have wronged you through insincere apologies, and harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor.
אחרי שחטאנו לפניך בחוזק יד, ואחרי שחטאנו לפניך במשא ובמתן.
The ways we have wronged you through violence and abuse, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement.
אחרי שחטאנו לפניך בגלוי ובסתר, ואחרי שחטאנו לפניך בבריקת עול.
The ways we have wronged you openly and secretly, and harm we have caused in your world by losing self-control.
אחרי שחטאנו לפניך בגילוי עריות, ואחרי שחטאנו לפניך במחול ובמשתה.
The ways we have wronged you through sexual immorality and harm we have caused in your world through consumption of food and drink.
אחרי שחטאנו לפניך ביצר הרע, ואחרי שחטאנו לפניך בנשך ובמרבית.
The ways we have wronged you by giving in to our hostile impulses, and harm we have caused in your world through greed and exploitation.
אחרי שחטאנו לפניך ברצון, ואחרי שחטאנו לפניך בנטיית גרון.
The ways we have wronged you through cynicism and scorn, and harm we have caused in your world through arrogant behavior.
אחרי שחטאנו לפניך בשנאת חינם, ואחרי שחטאנו לפניך בטומאת שפתיים.
The ways we have wronged you by hating without cause, and harm we have caused in your world through offensive speech.
אחרי שחטאנו לפניך בלשון הרע, ואחרי שחטאנו לפניך בצרות עין.
The ways we have wronged you with a slanderous tongue, and harm we have caused in your world through a selfish or petty spirit.
סלח לנו, מיכלנו, כפר לנו.
For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. We turn to page 98.
וקבל ברחמים, ברחמים וברצון תפילתנו. כקדם. תשליכנו ברחמים, ברחמים וברצון את תפילתנו.
We will now turn to page 112 for Avinu Malkeinu. And it is a pleasure to invite Beth Brewer to lead us in the next reading, and we will all please rise.
Avinu Malkeinu, illumine for us the path of our life.
Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we find the strength to take the road less traveled?
Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we come to know the purpose of our existence?
Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we learn not to live life in vain?
Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we get out of our indifference?
Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we distinguish between truth and falsehood?
Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we find the answers to our questions?
Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we gird ourselves with strength to seek answers?
Avinu Malkeinu, be gracious to us, answer us, empower us, and give us courage, for the answers are both in you and with you.
seated. And apologies to Jeff Brewer, who was also part of that reading before our beautiful Avinu Malkeinu rendition. Jeff, I didn't know you were going to be participating, so thanks, Jeff. A 13-year-old girl wrote an essay entitled One People in the East Midwood Jewish Center Synagogue Bulletin on June 2nd, 1946. It included the following wisdom. The war has left a bloody trail and many deep wounds, not too easily healed. Many people have been left with scars that take a long time to pass away. We must never forget the horrors which our brethren were subjected to in Bergen-Belsen and other Nazi concentration camps. Then, too, we must try hard to understand that for righteous people, hate and prejudice are neither good occupations nor fit companions. Rabbi Alfred Bettelheim once said, "Prejudice saves us a painful trouble, the trouble of thinking." There can be a happy world, and there will be once again, when men create a strong bond towards one another, a bond unbreakable by a studied prejudice or a passing circumstance. At only 13, Ruth Bader was already inspiring the Jewish people, though at the time it was only the Jewish people of Midwood, Brooklyn. And 74 years later, as we now mourn Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, American Jewish hero, almost superhero, for so many reasons, we hear her calls for social justice even as a young girl. It has been extraordinary to hear her distinguished on the news for being the first woman to ever lie in state in the U.S. Capitol. It feels equally meaningful that she is the first Jewish American to lie in state. Her family chose to infuse Jewish traditions into America's most distinguished rituals of mourning. Justice Ginsburg belonged to the conservative synagogue Adas Israel congregation in Washington, D.C. Her rabbi, Lauren Holtzblatt, officiated at the formal eulogizing and ceremonial rituals which took place in both the United States Supreme Court as well as within the U.S. Capitol. El Malei Rachamim was chanted in a woman's voice for the entire nation to hear. This was also incredibly significant. And it must have all meant so much to the spirit of 13-year-old Ruth Bader. In her early fight for gender equality, Ruth watched all of her male classmates become B'nai Mitzvah at her Orthodox synagogue. And she didn't understand why she was not allowed to become a Bat Mitzvah. So she proudly became the first Bat Mitzvah her synagogue ever celebrated. And then, when she attended Jewish summer camp, she easily slipped into the role of lay rabbi for her entire community. However, when her mother, Celia, passed away just a few days before Ruth graduated from high school, she was devastated to be told that she was not allowed to recite Kaddish for her own mother because she was a woman. I can only imagine what deep feelings of injustice this must have planted within her. She met her beloved husband Marty while at Cornell University, and they often had non-traditional gender roles in their household throughout their marriage, such as Marty cooking and caring for the children, and we hear stories that Ruth really didn't know how to cook. And this was while Ruth worked. And this must have been so scandalous at the time, and it still probably is all too often today, This non-traditional gender role would even come up in one of Justice Ginsburg's most famous cases, in which she fought for male widowers to receive the Social Security benefits of their deceased wives. Ruth began Harvard Law School in 1956 as one of 9 women amongst a class of 500 men. She went in, she felt, with 3 strikes against her. She was Jewish, a woman, and at that point, already a mother. She recounted, "When I attended Harvard Law School, there was no space in the dormitories for women. Women were not admitted to faculty club dining tables. One could invite one's father, but not one's wife or mother, to the law review banquet. The old periodical room at Lamont Library was closed to women. Law firms could use the school's placement facilities, though they would engage no women. And Harvard Business School enrolled only men." So during her studies, she followed her husband Marty to New York for his job and transferred to Columbia University, where she earned her law degree and graduated first in her class. One would think that New York City law firms would be clamoring to hire her, but instead, crickets. And each of these life experiences fortified her strength, her grit, and an appreciation for those who are so easily excluded and marginalized. Rabbi Lauren Holtzblatt recounted a story that Justice Ginsburg told NPR's Nina Totenberg. "I get out of law school with top grades. No law firm in the city of New York will hire me. I end up teaching. That gave me time to devote to the movement of evening out the rights of women and men. I was nominated to a vacancy on the D.C. Circuit. Justice O'Connor once said to me, 'Suppose we had come of age in a time when women lawyers were welcome at the bar. You know what? Today we would have been retired partners from some large law firm. But because it was not open for us, we had to find another way, and both end up on the United States Supreme Court.'" For those who had the privilege to visit Justice Ginsburg's office, journalist Dahlia Lithwick points out that your eyes were drawn immediately to a painting of the Torah's words, tzedek, tzedek, tirdof. Justice, justice shall you pursue. And Justice Ginsburg knew that pursuing justice was not easy. In fact, she exemplified this pursuit frequently in her dissents. There's even a wonderful children's book written all about it, I Dissent. She wrote her dissenting opinions with an eye towards the future. As she said, dissents speak to a future age. It's not simply to say, my colleagues are wrong and I would do it this way. But the greatest dissents do become court opinions, and gradually over time their views become the dominant view. So that's the dissenter's hope, that they're writing not for today but for tomorrow. Now, I don't think this will surprise you, but dissenting is a very Jewish thing. We've been debating, disagreeing, and arguing, respectfully most of the time, for millennia. And so much of it is recorded in our sacred texts for us to study and enjoy. In Mishnah Eduyot 1:5, there is a really fascinating discussion where the rabbis ask themselves, why are we recording the majority opinion and the minority opinion? And they answer that it is important to record both, no matter whether the law is ultimately based on the majority opinion or whether it's based on the wisdom of the answer. Majority rule alone does not define truth. Plus, the rabbis were humble enough to recognize that the ideas of truth or what is right might change in the future, just like what Justice Ginsburg said about her own dissenting opinions. And so it is important to record the minority opinion for the future. Likewise, Maimonides said in the Mishnah Torah that unanimous decisions in court cases were dangerous. He believed that unanimity revealed a blind herd mentality in the court, which could not be trusted. According to Maimonides, dissent of at least one judge was required for a decision to be real and valid. And dissent need not be mean-spirited. We know, for instance, how close her friendship was with Justice Scalia. But dissent, disagreement, and protest are nonetheless critical, and the bedrock of our country's democracy. We all must speak up when we disagree with something going on within our government at any level. We're so fortunate to live in a country which is built with values such as these in our Constitution and in our Bill of Rights. As the First Amendment reads word for word, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Justice Ginsburg is a reminder of the power that we all hold to bring about repair, fairness, equity, and redemption. She embodied, in her little body, the courage to hold our country accountable to its promise of liberty and justice for all. She gave us the permission to dissent and to keep dissenting until that dissent becomes the dominant view of the future. So let's carry on her legacy. We will live out her dream as well as our highest Jewish ideals in her memory and in her honor. So therefore, I stand on this bima and declare, we must mobilize voters and combat voter suppression across the country. Please contact Joanne Price if you'd like to be a part of CBSRZ's nonpartisan civic engagement campaign. Black Lives Matter. Your CBSRZ holiday tote had a special pin for you to wear to declare your support for racial justice. Judaism has supported reproductive rights since the Torah. We must maintain women's rights to choose whatever happens with their bodies and when. The Reform movement strongly affirms equal rights for all LGBTQ+ individuals. It is up to every single person to determine their own gender identity and whom they love. We will fight the rise of anti-Semitism and hate crimes. We've seen this hatred before, and we have declared never again. We will advocate for the rights of the immigrants because we have been those immigrants dozens and dozens and dozens of times in our history. And indeed, there are so many issues. Oy gevalt, there are so many issues. And I may not have mentioned one that's very important to you. And I'll remind you of the words of Pirkei Avot. We do not have to finish the work, but neither are we free to ignore it. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof. Let us hear one last time the voice of Justice Ginsburg and a prayer for our precious America.
But we're also honored to have with us to offer the prayer for the country, one of its #1 top citizens, who's done so much for the well-being of our country, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Justice Ginsburg is the great aunt of our bar mitzvah, and since we want to keep the spotlight on the bar mitzvah, she's agreed that I only should say that it's our honor that you're with us today, and we look forward to seeing you back here for Jordan's bar mitzvah. Prayer for the country, page 148.
Our God and God of our forebears, we ask your blessing for our country, for its government, for its leaders, advisors, judges, and all who exercise just and rightful authority. Teach them insights from your Torah, that they may administer all affairs of state fairly, that peace and security, happiness and prosperity, justice and freedom may forever abide in our midst. Creator of all flesh, Bless all the inhabitants of our country with your spirit. May citizens of all races and creeds forge a common bond in true harmony to banish hatred and bigotry and to safeguard the ideals and free institutions that are the pride and glory of our country. May this land under your providence be an influence for good throughout the world, promoting among all nations and people peace and freedom, helping them to fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they experience war anymore. And let us say, Amen. Amen.
Amen. And now with announcements. It's a pleasure to call on our congregation's president, Andy Schatz.
Good Yontif and Shana Tova. And Rabbi, thank you for that wonderful sermon. We will continue our services tomorrow morning starting at 9:30. In the afternoon, we have a children's service at 2 p.m., followed by a contemplative service we've titled Kvetch, Comfort, and Courage at 3:30. Perfect for a hungry crowd. To be followed by Yisker at 5 p.m. and Mila at 5:45. Unfortunately, we cannot have our traditional communal break the fast, but I'm hopeful that Rabbi Belinda will lead us in prayers to start that off. And perhaps even we can stick around if you have any food that you want to get and spend some time talking. We'll try to see if we can do that on Zoom. Sukkot begins this Friday with a service at 7:30 that evening and again on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. And this will be repeated the following Friday and Saturday for Simchat Torah. Please check emails from the office for further details. Please remember to return your prayer books, any prayer books you picked up this week. And whether you are returning prayer books or not, please do come by anytime to drop off food for the Shoreline Soup Kitchens or send a donation to SSKP to Wendy at the office, and we will pass it along. The bulk of the food is being picked up on Tuesday, but we always collect food throughout the year and donate, both food and donations. So we'll continue to do that. Last and certainly not least, but probably most important, our thanks once again to the well over 50 congregants who have made possible and beautiful our time together in services on Zoom in ways we didn't think possible just a few short months ago. A list of many of those who've given their time to make this work is included in a pamphlet that was in the bags you picked up. It's also linked at the end of this past Thursday's weekly email from the office. So please take the time to look at that and appreciate how lucky we all are. May you have a meaningful fast, a good year. Gemar Chatima Tova. See you tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Andy. We are now going to turn to our concluding prayers with Aleinu on page 116. Please rise.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'atei gdula liotzer reshit, shelo asanu k'guyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishbechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gol aleinu kechol amonam, va'anachnu ומשחרים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
Page 120. We stand as one on this night of remembrance, united in grief, united in loss, united in the power of a promise. God has made us. God will sustain us. We give praise to this life and rise up together to renew our strength. Our thoughts turn to loved ones whom death has taken from us in recent days and those who died at this season in years past. Our hearts open as well to the wider circles of loss in our community and wherever grief touches the human family. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing in this new year and always. With all of the loved ones who are no longer with us in body, but who are always with us in spirit, with their memories on our hearts and in our minds and memories, we turn together to page 122, and we join in the words of Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma tivarach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei b'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei amaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yifromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudisha b'richu, la'ela ula'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran b'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalom haraba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Please be seated, page 127. Our God and God of our ancestors, eternal God of all generations, may your presence in our lives this new year renew our spirits and renew our strength. May it be a good year, and may it be a sweet year. L'shana tova tikatevu v'techatemu. May you be inscribed and sealed for a good year. Good Yantif.